Hello, Liz.
Hey, Tony.
Welcome to University Challenge. Thank you for agreeing to come on. I've wanted to speak to you about this for a long time. So you and I worked together many years ago.
I know.
Oh, a few years ago.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah. So I know a little bit about you, but for the listeners today and the listeners to come, would you mind saying your full name and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm Liz Waugh, and I'm currently the Global Director of Sales Enablement at Crayon.
Excellent. And Crayon is
They are a solutions provider. So we work with customers to help them optimize their tech, but also get them to start thinking very innovatively on how they really want to maybe challenge their industry or think differently about efficiency of working, and really kind of build a relationship with our customers to help them succeed ultimately.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, that's today. Let's go back a little bit and tell me about secondary school for you. What was it like, and did you enjoy it?
So secondary school, I would say on the most part, I probably didn't enjoy it. I went to Burnham Upper, which was, it was on the border of Slough, so kind of random. It was just like it was a really random environment, if I'm honest. There were just very different people from different places, which is great, but equally it just felt very like toxic in a way. So quite a toxic environment of a school, which is, you would never really say that of a school, but that's kind of how it felt. And I just remember being bullied actually a lot within my school career. There were very few great teachers, but actually those teachers that were great I do remember very fondly. But I just remember thinking I just wanted to get out of the place, to be honest.
Yeah. So you would have studied for GCSEs.
Mm-hmm.
What subjects did you take?
So I did drama, geography, did math, science, English, and French, IT, and is there anything else? I think that was it. Yeah, I think that's it.
And how did you get on?
I actually didn't do too badly. So when we do the mocks and things, I actually my mock exams were awful. I was getting E's, F's. I had a really low grades, so I wasn't really expecting much. But actually, when I was at secondary school, I was probably like the second highest set, so in most of my subjects. And I always remember lining up in the queue to get my GCSE results. And I think because of where I was in set wise, you can either have the higher paper or the foundation paper.
Yeah.
So pretty much I was always on the foundation paper.
Yeah.
And my maths teacher came running out to me and he said, "You got your C." And C was the highest grade you could get of that foundation.
Yeah.
So actually, and I did art as well, sorry. So I got an A for art, I got B for English. And then I got C's across the board with the foundation papers. And actually I was told with geography, said, "Oh, I should have put you on the higher paper because you would have got an A because your coursework was A." And I was like, okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for telling me that. Maybe don't tell me that.
And actually I did really enjoy geography. I enjoyed the learning about different countries, different cultures, that type of thing. And actually that runs through very true of me now. And actually, if I think about being in a global role, you deal with so many different people, you travel to lots of different countries. So actually having that kind of understanding I don't know, I suppose it flows through to now. But yeah, I think with secondary school, it's just such a, in such a big environment. I think the way we're educated today is still quite archaic. It hasn't really changed in the hundreds of years that people have been taught at school, unfortunately. And I just have a different learning style, which didn't really adapt to that environment.
Yeah. And what happened when you got your results? Did you go on to do sixth form or college?
I could not wait to get out of that school. So I went straight to college.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
bye.
yeah, bye. And yeah, I went to Reading College of Art and Design, and I did fine art and design and photography.
Yeah.
And I also did quite a few like evening courses as well at the same time, like fashion and website design and things like that too.
Yeah. So you sounds like to me you did what lots of people say you ought to do when it comes to uni. It's like find something you love. And
Mhm.
because that's so you've taken a whole group of creative subjects there. Did you have an intention to go on to a career in like creative arts or?
Yeah, I actually really wanted to be an interior designer.
Okay.
Because I used to work with a photographer who used to take pictures of huge houses for estate agents. So, in Wentworth Avenue, like 11 million pound house and
Yeah.
so on. And it was just looking at the interiors. Some of them I'd be like, wow, that looks incredible. Other times I'd be like, I need a bit of help. But it was, and there I got speaking to a couple of interior designers, and I just thought, oh, this is really cool. And then speaking to, like, they did have career advisors at school occasionally that would be like, okay, well, if you wanted to be an interior designer, you then have to do, I think it was about 3 years in university and this amount of time in college and this and this and so on. And I thought at the time at school, I thought, okay, that sounds fair enough. And then you'd come out with a 50 grand salary.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so that's your average salary. And then I think I got to college, and again, I just didn't, I don't know, I don't feel that I pushed myself probably as far as I could do. And I don't know whether my heart was totally in it. And again, the learning, I think actually art, this is my personal opinion, art, photography, things that are creative in that way, I sometimes think you're natural at it or you're not. And I think you should go and maybe do, I think I did a lot of evening courses to go and kind of get some of that awareness of fashion or the things that I really enjoyed. But I didn't feel that I could just do that long-term learning, because I often sometimes think it influences people to be very similar. If you've got 20 people being in the same class and they're learning the same thing, but you have a natural flair in a different way, how does that then influence you to be the same as everybody else?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think I know my kids complained about it when they would do art at school. Like, why am I being taught to do this and this and this? But I guess you have to learn certain disciplines, but you could have a flair. Like you say, you could be an amazing abstract artist. So you don't want to spend a lot of time drawing bowls of fruit.
Yeah. And I think, and the same with interior design. I think I just I didn't see the point actually in going to university, but I also loved so many different things, and I found it really difficult to choose what I wanted to do next. Having looked back, actually, I think had I have done something business aligned and then put that into maybe creating an interior design business, because again, like the natural thing around looking at colors and understanding colors and how things work in a room, and using depth and all of that kind of stuff, again, you can learn that quite quickly, and some of it is natural, and you have your own taste and you work with clients and things. What I wouldn't have been aware of is actually the business implications of how to run a business for an interior design purposes.
And did your college or your parents float the idea of university with you? Was it expected or offered?
For my parents, very much expected. And I think actually university pretty much expected as well. So I got to the point of where I completed the UCAS form, but I said, I wanted to defer a year because I wasn't quite sure what I wanted. I chose the universities that looked great to me. I've got relatives that live in Huddersfield, and Huddersfield Uni looks great for creativity and things. So they were like, you can come and live in our loft, and it's a nice loft. You can come and live there in the apartment up in the loft, and be fine. So it was kind of pretty much on the cards. And big expectations from my family, because my mum, even though, you know, very successful, again, she went into tech, she didn't go to university.
Yeah. Here's a question for you then, because my guest prior to you was the first person I'd spoken to whose mum was on LinkedIn, because he tagged her in a post. Is your mum on LinkedIn?
She is, yeah, she is.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
still in the industry.
She's recently retired. So
Okay.
about, when was it? January she retired.
Ah, that's so cool. Okay, so your mum was a woman in tech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and didn't go to uni. What about your dad?
So my dad was also in tech. So he was a salesperson at Digital.
Ah,
And my stepdad was also in like telecommunications.
yeah,
You know, came from, you know, both my mum and my dad came from, you know, very working class backgrounds.
yeah.
And they just kind of, you know, worked hard themselves and kind of fell into the industry really.
Ah, right. So I think you're the first person that's been, first guest that's been on whose family have been in tech and who's gone on to sort of follow that. Because I've interviewed lots of people who work for lots of big software companies,
Yeah.
but I think, yeah, you're the first whose parents had been in the industry. So what happened? What made you decide that you definitely weren't going to go to uni then? So you deferred for a year. What did you do with that year?
I actually just went to work, which actually I always think is that defining moment when you have some money in your pocket,
Yeah.
and you know you're doing something you enjoy and you're good at it, and you
Yeah.
think, actually, do I now want to go and spend 3 years doing something that I don't even know if I want to do it, and then
Yeah.
come out with so much debt that
Mm,
it actually just did. I weighed up the options, and
yeah.
as much as a disappointment it was to my parents, and actually my mum and my stepdad moved to Italy when I was 18, and then my dad and my stepmom moved to Spain when I was 19. So
Oh,
that had
wow.
a bit of a factor as well. I was kind of like, well, you know, I need a roof over my head. You know,
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm, you know, feeding myself and
Yeah.
like that. So yeah,
Wow. And that's quite, I mean, that's quite, like you say, it's a very defining moment to become an adult and then have to properly support yourself.
yeah, yeah.
What was your first job then? What was the job that you took?
So, I mean, I'd been working since I was 16 anyway. So I
Mm,
was working whilst I was at college.
yeah,
Because I was only at college 3 days a week. So the other 2 days a week, I worked at the Bracknell Ski and Snowboard Centre as a
yeah,
ski technician. And
yeah,
then when I actually took the deferral year, I took a job in retail.
yeah.
So again, you know, I could tell you everything about G-Star and how they make jeans ergonomically
Ooh,
shaped, and
yeah,
Diesel about, you know, all of it, and how to buy in for shops and the amount that they put on, and you know, all of this kind of stuff, and you know,
yeah,
what attracts people to into a shop because of the window displays.
yeah,
And I really, really enjoyed it. You know, we used to have, you know, loads of people come in on a Friday or Saturday afternoon, and you knew that they were going out that night. They just had this look of panic on their faces,
yeah,
like, I need an outfit for tonight. And, you know, it was a great chance to be, you know, a bit more of a fashion advisor versus just, you know,
yeah,
a sales assistant or a shop assistant.
yeah.
But I tell you what, my wardrobe is pristine every single day, because the way that they teach you to fold as well never leaves you. So I
Really?
mean, actually, I was thinking of creating my own business of sorting people's wardrobes. So I had little business cards, and
Mm,
the owner of the shop that I worked for let me put them on the side, and I did a few people's wardrobes as well, which is now a huge thing. So I mean,
yeah,
maybe I could get back into that.
yeah, it is. You were like, I don't know. Well, you know, Marie Kondo's a bit of a different proposition, but she was all about the folding and the rolling and the,
Yeah.
you know, oh, right. See, I knew Naina McIntosh, who's founder of Hope Fashion.
Oh yeah.
She has been on the podcast and she talked about when Next came into market and they started arranging clothes by outfit and
Yeah,
by colour. And she was saying
exactly.
by and when she had previously, I think, been at M&S, they were like, what is this thing with Next? What is it they're doing? And they
Yeah.
were winning all their customers. So
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we just, because it was an independent shop as well,
Yeah.
it was like the one that everyone used to go to, which was quite good. So they had a good footfall anyway.
yeah,
But I will always remember this woman came in, and I always used to try on all the clothes beforehand, because I think as long as you know how they fit and how you
yeah,
fit in them, you can really, you know, give people that detail.
yeah,
And I always remember this woman, she's like, oh, I'm looking for a dress or whatever for tonight, and I only in black, I only ever wear black, but I
yeah,
could just tell with her coloring, she wears green, she needs to wear green. Anyway, I
yeah,
picked out this dress, and I was like, can you do me a favor, it's just come in today, can you just try it on and let me know what you think? You don't have to show me, but I just haven't had a chance to give it a go. Anyway, she bought it. So
wow. Okay. So being a, basic stylist, wardrobe organizer, but like knowledge about cool brands, how did you get from there into IT?
I think I felt like I needed to grow up a little bit, and I needed a bit more of a serious job.
Yeah,
So actually, I just went to a recruitment company, Reed, and
yeah,
they pointed me in the direction of Ascot Racecourse,
yeah.
and I started working full time there, selling hospitality packages for the race meets. So
Wow.
like the Parade Ring restaurant, which at that point I think it was like £1,300 per person, for like Royal Week.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it was just crazy mental money, but it was really good, and I'll always look back at that fondly, because that was my first pure like telesales type job.
Yeah.
And you know, my favorite ever memory of that is being put in front of the Besborough fashion show with Philip Tracy and Vivienne Westwood, fashion walking down and things. So it was actually quite nice to be still part and parcel of, you know, of
Yeah.
that. But and then after that, I went and started working for a company called Fast, which was kind of the sister company of the Federation Against Software Theft.
Yeah. Okay. And what did you do there?
So I was a customer account manager, and I was working with lots of different companies to help implement a software asset management program. So, you know, at that point, the big vendors like Microsoft and Oracle and so on were contacting customers, making sure that they were using their software correctly. And at this point, we were one of the consultancy businesses that they either had a membership or they would work with us on a consultancy basis, for us to help them optimize and make sure that they had everything correct before the likes of Microsoft came in asking for they're using.
I remember some of the scary campaigns, like, we're watching you.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Something that struck me actually is that you went fashion retail, hospitality, IT software or licensing, software asset management. And is there a common thread in there for you that did it ever bother it? Was there a moment where you thought, this is the industry I want to be in, or
No, I don't think it was. I think it was more
Hmm.
about keeping a roof over my head, to be honest.
Yeah,
I needed to make money, and as much as I loved retail, and it was just at the beginning where the high street was starting to show a small sign of struggling. And I was thinking about opening my own shop, and I was thinking, I am someone that always has these kind of grand ideas. My big thing is creativity, and in all shapes and forms. But it just didn't feel right at that time, and I just felt, I need to, what's more important, keeping a roof over my head and feeding myself, and it was kind of like I could come back to that could be my plan A, but I probably need to work on plan B.
yeah, it makes sense. And then you from those early days of Fast, you have been in tech ever since. Is that right?
Yeah, so at that time I was working at Fast during the week. On Saturday I was still at the shop, and I also did dog sitting on the side. So I pretty much had a 3 jobs at the same
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So ever since then.
Right. And at what point could you just have one job? Where?
When I moved to Microsoft.
Okay. And moving to Microsoft, so there are lots of people that would think, well, you have to be a graduate to work there, surely.
Yeah.
Was there an expectation or questions about that? Did you ever find that people would ask where you went to uni and be surprised that you didn't?
All the time, all the time. So I started off as a contractor.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was working closely with the SAM team, funnily enough.
Yeah.
And because I worked in a SAM business before, and then I worked with partners at Microsoft, which is a huge area of the business. Then when this role came up for a SAM services, SAM partner manager, it kind of fit. I don't believe anyone necessarily had the same skill set that I had at that point that fit that type of role. It was like it was created for me. But at the time, I think a lot, because of the age that I was, the same people that were going for that type of role were the graduates as well.
Yeah.
And so I think I was as shocked as anybody else that I got the role. And I think it was, I do always thank the person who hired me into that role, because he took a chance on me because of my experience, and I had real world experience versus the program that we had at Microsoft around graduates. So I was probably one of the youngest people that wasn't a graduate at that point. And I always used to get the question, where did you go to university? Are you a grad? Are you in the Mac program? Oh, why are you not in this session? Because all the Macs are here, all the grads are here. And I'm like, well, I'm not one. And it was quite isolating, actually.
And how old were you at the time?
So I was about 24, 25.
Yeah. My approach to that, because I would get asked the same thing. I was asked to mentor some grads, and one of them said, "Where did you go to uni?" I said, "I didn't." And they're like, "How did you get in then?" I went, oh, through the back door, because I worked for a company that had been acquired. And but by the same token, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, as you say, you had so much to offer in terms of experience. Whoever is offered the job, you're taking a chance. But I guess because they're hiring outside of what was the program, it feels like they're taking a chance on someone who's highly experienced.
I know, actually, when you put it like that, it does, because I say exactly the same thing. I feel like I came in the wrong way, and it was, I kind of was swimming against the tide in a way. But then, I mean, I did also have a chip on my shoulder for quite some time because of that, because you see all the job descriptions that were there. It was like, you need a bachelor's, or you need this, or you need that. And I suppose it did put a lot of pressure on me to prove myself in the business. But I don't dislike that fact, because I did prove myself in the business eventually.
And you were there for more than 10 years, is that right?
Yeah, 12 years.
And if I've got this right, you need to correct me if I'm wrong. I think you kept yourself busy outside of work while doing a big corporate career and striving and proving yourself and moving up the ranks, if you want to call it that. You were busy outside of work with non-paid volunteering.
Yes.
I was just thinking I've got it wrong.
I was a football coach.
Oh, good. I was thinking, if I've got this wrong, I'm going to look really stupid.
No, you're right.
So tell me about your football coaching and how that kind of fitted in with everything else that you were doing.
Well, I mean, I played football for years, so I absolutely loved it. So that was another thing that I really enjoyed, So, I did ballet, I loved creativity, art, football, really kind of sporty and things. And I played it for absolutely years. And I played women's football as well. but actually trying to find a team locally is so difficult, because you know, you can't get it wasn't as popular as it is now, and it's amazing to see, you know, obviously England, their performance the other night was just absolutely incredible. I follow very closely, and it's really lovely to see that more females are getting into the sport. But actually one evening I was at a Christmas do, and I was talking to one of my colleagues about wanting to get back into football, and he introduced me to somebody else, Dion, who came over, and he was like, well, have you ever thought about coaching? I thought, because I'm not an introvert, but I can be quite shy sometimes, and I just thought, oh, how would I be in that kind of environment? Or, you know, how would I do worry about what people think of me and things like that, even teenagers, and you know, and I just thought, oh, I don't know if I want to put myself in that situation. But he said, look, do you know what, come along, try it out. He said, I'm just trying to create something. My niece wants me to create this team. They don't have one. We have a full boys company, like full male team, but we now need to look at a female team. And he said, look, it's in Whitley Wood in Reading. And we'd just give it a go. And I've started, and for 5 years we had this incredible team. We had the most diverse team in the league. The talent was absolutely off the charts. We won the league a couple of times. And also what it did help me do was gain a relationship with I was having a relationship with the University Technical College in Reading anyway. I was speaking to the girls at the same time about their future and about what they were doing, because we'd often talk to them about the usage of social media and things like that, because you have this responsibility. And we were also talking about, you know, because you know, we had these cars and all of that kind of stuff in a nice car or whatever. What do you do? And do I have to go to uni for that? No, you don't. Like, try this technical college. And the technical college was saying about actually how they need to change how many females they're getting into the institution and things. So we were trying to partner them up together, and we were talking to them a lot about you know, females in the local area. So it was kind of this really nice trifecta approach between football, work, and this University Technical College.
It's fun. And I think there's sort of little sparks going off in my mind about some of the work that you do, as you say, which is involving enabling others, or you know, bringing people together. There's a kind of strong theme there about, I guess, working with communities and bringing people together and enabling them, whether that is by being correctly licensed or by saying to them, if you follow this career into tech, you too could have a nice car. Equipping people with skills. It feels like those things, like you say, there's this trifecta aligned. If a trifecta can align, came together for you.
It is. I really enjoy collaboration, and you know, one of my biggest things is like my network in and outside of Microsoft. Like, my network inside of Microsoft was probably my most valuable asset, and actually my network in general is my most valuable asset, because I think without people you can't get to where it is that you need to go. And you're better doing it together than alone. So absolutely. And you know, highlighting new innovative opportunities out of the different connections that you make is really exciting.
And how did you find so when it came to the point where you decided you wanted to move beyond Microsoft, so you've had like, you know, solid 12 years or so there, how did you sort of think about what you wanted to do next? Because it's easy to become quite institutionalized. You could say, well, I'm here and it's massive and I could be here for, you know, the next 20 years.
Absolutely. And that's the thought process I had. So I felt, and you know, I still feel incredibly lucky to have worked at Microsoft. I absolutely love the business. I think, you know, I really believed in the mission, and I still believe in the mission. And I really like the leadership that Sachin now has is just, you know, when you watch him talking in front of you about the values and the ethics that he has, as well as that he wants the business to have. And, you know, the journey and the transition the business went from the time I started to where it is today, I could have absolutely have kept my career in Microsoft, and I would have been absolutely happy to do so. Every company has its frustrations and things, but you know, I was looking for new opportunities internally. I didn't quite feel that I was stepping into the like trying to find the right opportunity for me, though. I didn't.
Yeah.
It's such a complex environment, and therefore the complexity to find your next career path. Yeah. There is quite a bit of work you have to do, and I felt like I did quite a lot of work to find out and do a lot of research, but I kept missing the mark. Nothing quite fit for me. And I think actually the next thing I did want to do was a global role, but that would have potentially mean moving to Seattle, for instance. And you know, I'd actually had the potential opportunity a couple of times throughout my career at Microsoft, and you know, for whatever reason, I decided it wasn't the right role for me. And this time, it's not necessarily because it's not the right role. It was because of now I needed the flexibility, and I wanted the work-life balance because I have a 2-year-old daughter. And so, you know, I completely understand the work-life balance that happens in the corp office, and I just didn't know whether that was right for me at this time. Because for me, I've got a 2-year-old, and I want to spend all the time that I can spend with her. So that was a huge factor that I've never even thought of before prior to having her. And actually, if I'm honest, I made the decision to leave, but the opportunity approached itself to me. And I actually felt I was taken aback that an opportunity like that would actually come across my plate. And I thought, it's a leader that I truly believe in. It's a business that I know very well, and I can see the growth projections and the opportunity to grow myself. And I just don't think I would have accelerated my career as quickly. And it was an exciting risk that I wanted to take.
And I love that you said, so something that came up in a Women in Leadership event I was at was about women who don't stay in tech especially. And I just love how you said, well, I've got this 2-year-old, I need the work-life balance that I want. You know, that's something that I want to proactively make sure I'm in control of. So I'm going to do that by having a global role. But I love that it shows that you can have career progression and a global role, and you can have your family. You don't have to leave.
And if I'm honest, it totally depends on the environment and the empowerment that business provides you. Because I think, you know, when this opportunity came about, and it's actually still something that's really cognizant at Crayon now, I always get asked, you know, have you got the right work-life balance? Is the flexibility right for you? And actually now I'm like, just, it's fine, I'm all good, don't worry about it, don't worry, don't fuss. But it's actually, I think, when businesses think about creating that culture and really sticking by it, that you know, really does create that trust in you. And you know, I work from home predominantly most of the time as well, which makes it really easy. Nursery is a 5-minute walk down the road. You know, and I must say, actually, my husband is absolutely incredible. He's like, this is your time to, you know, you go for it, you go. He's my biggest supporter. And you know, he's the one that does the, you know, drop-offs a lot of the time, the pickups if needed. You know, we're very much 50-50, but you know, he's taken a more of an active role in that. So
it's great.
So yeah, it's a really big thing.
And what do you think has kind of held you in good stead throughout your career? Because you've been properly standing on your own 2 feet, you know, going back to when your parents have going to Spain and Italy.
Bye.
Bye. Have fun in the UK. Don't do anything we wouldn't do. So you've been very self-sufficient for a very long time. What has been like sort of at your core? what do you think has enabled you to do the things that you've done?
I think a lot of it is, and this is such a cliche, but it is just working hard. And just having, like, I had small little ambitions that I wanted. So like by the age of 30, I wanted a BMW. I'm quite a car girl, by the way. So like I had four older brothers, so that I've seen them go through like different cars and all of that kind of stuff. So by the age of 30, I wanted a BMW, and I wanted to own my own house, because when I was in the UK, I think it was, when my parents left the UK, I think over 5 years, I'd moved about 10 times or something like that in different rented accommodations and things. And so I wanted stability. So it was being really clear about what my goal was, and it was more of a personal goal than a career aspiration at that time. But actually, in terms of like my core and who I am, I always like to think I'm really easy to work with, and I'm really easy to talk to, and I'm really inclusive. And those are like my things that I support other people. I really enjoy watching other people flourish, because it's great to see, when I got involved in the apprenticeship program for Microsoft, for instance. I just love that, and I was like, I want to hire my own apprentice, and so I did, and that has taught me so much, and I've loved watching her grow, and that type of thing really, really moves me forward. And I think just being like, it's really simple things, like coming at things with a really positive attitude. We all have our own things that we go through, and it's all relative. There's nothing to compare what one person goes through to the next person, to the next. And so I always try and keep things, for me, as positive as I can, and also being empathetic to what other people are probably going through as well. So that's kind of how I've always been, and I always try and keep that, and just staying humble. Like, I feel so grateful to be in this situation now that I am.
And what advice who knows, maybe the education system will have changed by the time your daughter comes to that age, but I guess, what advice would you give to, or let's say you had your old football team around you, what would you have said to them when it came to assessing what happens post education?
I'd kind of, I think it really depends on who they are as well, but really think about what does truly make you happy, but what are your drivers? What's going to be the driver to, is it that you want to own your own house? Is it that you want to be a CEO? Is it that you want to be Prime Minister? Please, someone. Yes, actually, I might have to go and give them a pep talk. But whatever that driver is, like, really hone in on it and forge everything from there, because and then also be really clear on what your values are. And I think, values mean very different things to different people, but always live by those values, and just make sure that you're making yourself happy, and can constantly reevaluate it and re-evolve yourself, because I think you don't stay, as we say in tech, tech is ever evolving, but so are people. And I think it's okay to change your values, and it's okay to change your career path, and it's absolutely okay to want to do something different and take risks, but just make sure that it's like what you totally believe in and what you want to do, versus what everybody else tells you you should be doing. I
love that. Yes, you should be. No. Okay. And maybe, like, I often ask people what's next, but I know you're kind of new into your current position, but I guess, have you got, like, eventually, do you think you're going to have the wardrobe tidying business?
I don't know. I did think, actually, funnily enough, one of the tabs that I have open on my phone is an interior design course, because I was thinking, when I retire, I'd quite like something, because I don't want to retire, because I think, actually, I don't know what I'd do with myself. So I would love to do something like that as I kind of go into my twilight years, start creating that type of thing. But I don't know, to be honest with you. And actually, this is another advice that I would probably give, is that don't have a 10-year career plan, don't have a 5-year career plan. Have maybe an idea of, you know, that driver of where you want to be, perhaps. But I find it, with roles that are changing so often, who knows, you know, where they're going to end up. And like I say, my network is my biggest asset, and my network was the reason I have this role today. And if someone came to me maybe in a couple of years or whatever, or, you know, there was a different role available in the business that I'd never even thought of, I'll just try it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's just great. It's like a little mini coaching session talking to you, Liz. So, but I like the idea, or I love, certainly because I'm nearly 50. I mean, I'm 47, but my kids like, you're nearly 50. But I have thought about, how do you build for what is next? So how do I sow that seed for what I might like to do in 10 years' time? And I love the thought that you've got this app open, just there, sort of in the background. And it could be however long.
Next to the handbags that I'm thinking of buying too, maybe. But yeah, it's just, you know, it's just a little reminder occasionally.
Yeah.
I'm definitely, I mean, I'm not coaching football now at the moment, because having a 2-year-old and new job and things like that, and actually they're all grown up now, and they've all started driving and going to university and starting their lives. But I would like to eventually get back into coaching again. I'm hoping my daughter likes it. But yeah, things
you can
like
have
that.
a load of lionesses to look after.
That's it, absolutely, why not? But yeah, I think the world changes so quickly, and I think it can evolve in different ways. It's just, I think it's being open-minded actually to what you may fall in love with in a couple of years. You might see something different that you think, oh, I really like that, I might give it a go.
Brilliant. That's great, Liz. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, lovely to see you too. All right.